Pigweed here. Today we review an IPA and ask, are we witnessing the death of local culture? Oh, good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening. All right.
There's Longinus. What do you know?
Fantastic. So,
What are you drinking here, anyway?
well, this is an IPA. So,
Cape May?
Very good, very good.
Yeah,
Cape May.
what's on your
I love
mind?
it. I like to travel.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about I like to go to Greece and Tahiti. I'm
been
just
all over the
saying.
country, yeah.
I'm just saying, just one state away, just enough that you're not seeing the same thing all the time.
Right.
However, sometimes you feel like you are seeing the same thing.
Same
all the
time.
time.
Home Depot is everywhere.
And so that's what I would like to get into.
Okay.
After I get into this beer.
Okay, fantastic. This is Cape May Brewing Company, just a little ways away from here.
Right.
India Pale Ale, and it's 6.3. And get in there and tell me what you think. So it's an
Alright.
American
Go
IPA. There's so many different styles of IPA. There's English and then there's like 25 different styles of American IPA.
It's nice and clear, kind of West Coasty, not particularly malty.
Not very malty.
Hops all over the
Do you
place.
taste hops?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But
Got
not
some
a
bitterness?
lot. So
But not like Nugget Nectar.
no,
No.
not like Nugget Nectar at all.
And the aroma's not that pungent.
I wouldn't put it solid West Coast, because solid West Coast is just like water and hops.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of malt going on in here. So it's very good. But it's not a malty IPA.
No, it's not. It's very nice though. Very nice. Cape May, it's kind of like a beach town, seaside
There you go.
IPA.
And is it like Cape May, like America's Venice?
This would be a good one. You don't want to drink too many of these at the beach because it is 6.5, but it would be a good one to have at the beach.
That's nice. There's a little crab on the can.
Yeah, after you go out all day and you do some fishing and you spend some time at the beach and you go back and now you're going to have some crabs.
And now it's time to
it's time to drink
it's time to party.
Exactly.
All right.
So what are we talking about local culture?
What I'm talking about is it just seems to feel like especially like you're on the interstate or something, right? You're on the interstate and you pull over to get gas and you could be anywhere in the darn country.
I know. It's the same exact stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so you drive. So we drove back from Texas a little while ago, and every place you stop, it's like the same exact candy, the same exact stuff. Every once in a while, there's something a little bit different.
Right. Well, it's not just fast food. It's like, there's Mr. Tire, and then there's the mattress store,
And then there's Home Depot, and there's right. Yeah.
Well, I could give you some statistics that could sort of back up or prove your all anecdotal.
Hold on. Longinus, you might help me with this first. Let's go back 100 years.
Yeah.
When we were far more disjointed, long before there was any homogenization going, there's for the corporatization. What about railroads and synchronizing the times?
Sure.
Wasn't that an important deal that you had to?
If you really right, so before 1887 or 1883, and before railroads were really becoming more and more complicated, you had what they call Baltimore time, and you had Washington D.C. time, and you had New York time. I mean, they were close. They might have been 5-10 minutes off of each other, but they were close.
But you figure, so noon is high noon, right? Everybody's 12 o'clock.
Right.
Is when the sun's directly overhead.
It's a little different.
What do you hear?
So, but when you have these big, huge machines going on rails, and you got to make sure there's not two trains on the same rail.
So when did we come up?
When did we come up with
the different time zones?
1887.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when you come up with a national time, and that's when the federal government takes over and says we're creating the national time, and we're going to be the keeper of time.
Now
and that's when you start to create.
I would say that's a legit role of the federal government.
Yes. Thank you.
That's something you're going to leave to every state.
Yeah, every state, right? Because up until then, you didn't have really. I mean, if you're traveling by horse or carriage,
It doesn't matter.
make any difference.
How really? Really?
Right.
You don't know what time it is anyway. Then you
Right.
get to the town. There's a town square and a clock on you. All right.
Okay, it's that time.
Oh,
Right,
boy, that seems like it's 5 minutes off.
But that's
That's right.
But that's exactly. But that sort of shows how more and more complicated world becomes as
Yeah.
it gets more and more
As,
integrated.
right, as,
regions
right,
become more
as
integrated.
distances close,
Yeah.
as people start interacting more,
Yeah.
you need to start homogenizing. Getting everybody, getting people on the same page.
Right.
And I just thought I think that was just an early example
Yeah.
of how that starts.
Yeah.
And then you started getting, and when did we start getting national chains like early Woolworths
Yeah.
and when you
Or Sears. I mean,
Or
the
Sears.
Sears
and-
catalog was the
right.
big
It
thing,
was right. The Sears catalog was really important.
Yeah.
But in 1893, you had what they call rural free delivery. So that's when the federal government through the United States Postal Service
okay.
says, "All right, we're gonna deliver mail out to the rural regions." And once you start having that, the idea
Now
of
you're
getting
connecting
that,
the country folk to the
connecting
city
together,
folk.
and you're
Okay.
getting
Here we
the
go. Now we're getting
Sears
somewhere.
catalog.
Yeah, it's the same concept as the Rural Electrification Act, where they wanted to make sure that people who are in rural areas, I mean, that was earlier, but
Right.
they wanted to make sure people in rural areas weren't missing out on.
I saw good. I saw you just like the Internet Act, right?
Yeah,
They want to
right.
make sure that they have access. And of course, nobody. They spent $8 billion and nobody
Nothing
was connected. But the idea was
the idea was a good idea.
I saw something interesting that a president, I don't know who's Nixon or somebody, grew up in a Sears catalog home.
Yeah.
You could order a whole house.
A whole house, and there's people out there that are always searching for the Sears
You
houses.
can buy
but there
tiny
is a Sears
houses on-
catalog of houses, and they would come on the train, and they'd take the train, and they would drop it off at the little town, and you'd go pick it up.
So this is and we're talking what in the 20s and 30s.
I mean, you're talking as early as the 1900s, 1910s.
They're already prefabbing houses.
You can get on Amazon and buy a tiny house right now.
Well, you could say that the prefab houses, and we could go into this a little bit more, but once you started going from your timber frame, which is your post and beam frame, to the 2x4 balloon frame, and the balloon frame houses were the ones that started to create similar forms, and the I house was the one that really sort of proliferated across the United States at the time.
Okay, all right. So now
What's the benefit and what's the good and what's the bad about what we've talked about so far?
I said that,
That's great.
the consistency, right?
Yeah.
Just like I don't know, I was, or standardization,
Yeah.
right? So we don't have different light bulbs screwing into different units, like
And
right?
you can't have different grades of different. Like the railroad track has to be the same width everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. You can't be changing that around.
And the
Yes.
creation of the 4x8 sheet of plywood.
Sure.
Yes,
And-
and then the studs are
Right.
a certain distance so that they line up with the plywood.
And the same size of bricks, so every mason knows what, can look at a wall and, all right, we need this.
All right, everything sounds pretty good. I'm
Right.
digging the standardization of
Yes.
There's
American
great,
life.
there's great things about
I
it.
am loving it, but everything's still far enough apart that you have.
If you go to New
A lot of-
Mexico, it's still different. They still eat different food and they speak a little bit differently.
Yes,
And,
and that is the fun part. What I was saying about going somewhere different. It's got not just climate, but like you're saying, the architecture of New Mexico,
Sure.
or whatever.
If you go down to Miami,
Miami.
even today, there's like Art Deco places. down
Right.
there. It's a little interesting.
And
You
you're
walk
like,
around and
oh
say,
God, I feel like I'm far from home.
Yeah.
However, there isn't Woolworths,
Yeah.
and which had a soda fountain,
Coffee
right?
table. They had
Yeah,
a
all
lunch
over the
counter.
place.
A lunch counter.
Right. Yeah.
I just watched It's a Wonderful Life, and I go in there and there's the soda fountain, the drugstore.
Yeah.
So the drugstore also has the soda fountain counter.
Right. But that wasn't the same everywhere in the country.
No.
Some places had that. And some places
that was a general tendency, but these are all individually owned.
Right.
Individual pharmacies, individual.
Well, here's a startling statistic about Baltimore. From 1898 to 1902, Baltimore lost about 90% of its corporations. And they were taken over by regional and national corporations at the time. So you start seeing not only sort of the standardization and building practices.
Right.
So your local lumber yard gets bought up by a national lumber yard.
And that's the thing that's going on now is like the local hardware store can't compete when Home Depot moves in or even when Walmart moves in. Right? Because when Walmart moves in, all these other little shops, they can't compete anymore because Walmart doesn't have everything the local shop had, but it has like the 80% that most people want.
Yes. So in the time that my adult life in Baltimore, we had Singer's Hardware, we had Sears, Steve's grocery store. We had 2 pet stores on the same block. I always thought that was weird, but kind of fun. Local drugstore, the cross street market. You could go in there, and there was fruit guy, vegetable guy, meat guy. You could buy some flowers and then go get some oysters at the end and a beer. And that thing is corporatized, and all of those things that I mentioned. Now that was all in walking distance from the house, and now you got to get in the car to go to Home Depot. You got to get in the car to go down to Giant.
Right.
All right. So here's some statistics to make you feel worse.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. That's why I had the beer.
Today and I got all these stats from I guess AI because I asked my phone these questions and it gave me these numbers. So I don't know how accurate they are, but they're going to be
when it's illustrative.
Today there are 44,000 McDonald's, 11,000 Walmarts, and this is all in the United States. 2,000 Home Depots, 1,200 indoor shopping malls, 68,000 strip malls, and approximately 214,000 fast food businesses.
Wow. In
the United States.
Yeah.
And they're all, and when you think about McDonald's, every McDonald's looks the same because they're localizing their architecture.
Right. Yeah. And that's what, and you kind of, you don't want the French fries to be different from one McDonald's to the next. So in that sense, you're going there for that very reason.
Positive.
That's the thing. I'm down in Arkansas at Major Crowhill's house, and we want to fix something. And I'm like, okay, I know I can get this at Home Depot. Where's Home Depot?
And I might even know what aisle.
Exactly. I can walk into the store, and it's very familiar, and I know exactly where to go. And so that's good. Or like if I go into a McDonald's, I know what's available. I know what I'm going to get. If I go into the local Greasy Spoon thing, it might be great. It might be horrible. I don't know. It's random. So there's a good thing about things being consistent, but there's also you lose a richness. The
local, mom and pop.
Right. Yeah.
Is there even? Thank you, Jeff Bezos, who first went after booksellers.
Right.
Is the Barnes and Noble down at the Inner Harbor
gone?
Is it really?
It's been gone for 10 years.
Barnes and Noble is a chain, though. I mean, the real
even
question is
even
the regular local bookstore.
Yeah,
they're gone.
Forget that guy.
Yeah.
Well, we have like maybe 3 local bookstores.
I mean, there's still some people that are hanging on. God bless them. But so in one sense, you've got corporate big boxes squeezing out the little guy,
right?
And now we're getting online Amazons
squeezing out
even that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So soon
Walmart is in trouble.
Yeah, and once
Amazon's making Walmart in trouble. And it's always been sort of it's always been the moving forward, larger and bigger.
And once again, there's a good side and there's a bad side. I mean, the good side is I can go to Walmart and find pretty much anything I want.
Yeah.
And if I can go to Amazon and I can find just about anything and have it delivered tomorrow morning,
right? No.
It's amazing. But if I go driving to some other city, I feel like I'm not in another city. Let's go. They all
Yeah.
look the same.
Yes,
Like,
the whole
what-
sense of travel and experiencing something else. Now, if you get to when you find the downtown, if it's still thriving,
Yeah.
that should have its own local flavor. But you have to drive the outskirts, the approach, like for us at the Ritchie Highway or Route 40 or whatever. The approach in is same every damn where in the
Yes.
whole country.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Tire and
Right.
every chain thing that you can think of. Dunkin'
So think of
Donuts.
this. Here's some words just to think about. When you think of a world of identical strip malls, like what you're talking about, every place is replaceable. Nothing is sacred. Everything
Nothing
is for
sacred.
sale.
Yeah.
History doesn't matter.
No.
Roots are optional.
Wow, that's rough, and that's
Yeah.
totally 100% true.
That's exactly what it is. Like, it doesn't matter. You grew up in this town. Well, this is exactly the same as that other town down there.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make?
Yeah. You're right.
There's no pride
There's no pride. There's no identity.
Yeah.
There's no then in that small towns and in bigger towns the modernist architecture.
Yeah.
The glass and steel. Luxury apartments
Right.
or office building. Tulsa looks like San Francisco looks like looks like Austin.
And one of the things that is keeping some sort of identity alive, of course, is the historic buildings. Right?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
it's the conglomerations of the historic buildings that are all unique. But
Let's just take a minute to honor and say God bless the historical preservationists because they here let's just cheers because they are the ones who are sort of are the what would you say the barrier between
Yes.
the barbarians at the gate
Of just trying to homogenize everything.
of trying to homogenize everything.
So think about this. Imagine if McDonald's took over the whole planet.
right.
Home Depot took over the whole planet. And on the entire planet, everybody spoke the same language.
Right.
They ate the same breakfast.
Yeah.
They wore the same clothes.
Yeah.
Like everything has become, we've figured out what is the absolute optimal market
Yes.
position for everything.
And we're all wearing the same sweatpants and
Everybody's having
Velcro shoes.
Yes, everybody's having the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everybody's watching the same TV
You know what
shows.
you're getting.
Everybody's listening to the same music.
Kind of afraid that we're going there.
But what have we lost? If that happens,
Right.
if we've decided that everything is just blandified,
Right.
everything is the same. It's optimal. We have great supply chains.
Yeah.
We have everything's low price.
Yes, right. Things are cheaper and more convenient than ever.
Yes.
And so if that's what we're going with, there's this sense that is the optimum, and boy, we have achieved it because it is as cheap and convenient as anything you could imagine.
Right.
And
What's wrong with that?
Right. And there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
Right. But I think also at the same time, I mean, and I got a lot of statistics on home building and house building and how the suburban development all looks
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, let me just say, when Levittown, which was sort of the first post-World War II mass suburb that was developed in the potato field in Long Island,
Right.
50 years later, preservationists, because 50 years is sort of like the mark. After 50 years, we could take a look at it to see if it's historical.
Okay.
Or not,
All right.
and it's a good rule of thumb. I'll put it that way.
I agree.
And they went there and said, "Oh,
Is it
no
worth preserving?
house here looks." Even though every house here was built to look exactly the same, none of these houses look the same now.
Okay.
Everybody did
Everybody's
things to them.
optimized.
And everybody's
Customized them.
customized everything. And I think that that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of hope is the fact
Well,
is that
this neighborhood here, I think this house is like 1953.
yeah.
And I think all of the houses originally looked the same.
Yeah,
but
they
when you
did.
drive through the neighborhood, it doesn't
They're
feel
all
like
very
it.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you're saying that people can still put their personal touch and they don't
I
have
hope
to
so
become
still,
right.
but what happens when
Ryan Holmes?
That's actually an interesting point. That there is people will naturally customize and individualize, personalize things because that's the way we are. But if you have this drive to make everything the same, to like, imagine when you see places where there's a neighborhood and it's all the same house, it's block after block after block of the same house.
Yeah.
There's something sort of dehumanizing.
There's
about
something
that.
soulless about it.
And there has been book after book after book really describing that. James Howard Kunstler's Geography of Nowhere is probably the biggest one. But Peter Blake came out with his God's Own Junkyard. We're talking about how highways all looked the same and how terrible they were. The Crack in the Picture Window by John Keats was done in like 1955.
So they're already worrying about it.
They were already worried about it. The Lonely Crowd by, I can't remember the guy's name, which was a sociologist, and he was like, yeah, it's really lonely out there in the suburbs because there's no culture. There's not enough people. There's no third places. That's the other thing to maybe really talk about too. Is the fact is that McDonald's is a third place. And what I mean by a third place, it is a public place where people can gather. And if people can gather, they can create their own sort of unique culture, even though it's in a restaurant architecture
community,
national, right? But they can create their own community in that way. So that gives me a little bit of hope too.
The Ridge Club has coffee here at 6:00, and the Poker Boys have whatever.
How about regional accents?
Yeah,
go on.
So here's what I wanted to introduce. Let's think about the Tower of Babel. Right before the Tower of Babel, everybody spoke the same language.
Right.
And the idea of making everybody speak a different language and scattering them was seen as a curse.
Yes.
But maybe we're saying there's a different way of looking at that. Right? Because having everybody united and speaking the same language, there's a benefit to that. But isn't there a benefit to having different little pockets of people doing different things? Like you're saying, regional languages.
That's the T.S. Eliot definition, if you got that going on.
Let me finish up with the homogenization of the accent.
Yeah.
That we have. I have like a little. I have what is a pretty interesting map of how they, like, when you get out west.
Yeah.
They don't. Right. It sort of stops once you get past a certain point. There's no new accents. There's no different accents. It's just Western. While it gets pretty. Well, so here we are in Mid-Atlantic in Maryland. You go into how long does it take you to get to New Jersey? You know what I mean? An hour and a half, or into rural Virginia.
Yeah.
And you are already experiencing
a different language,
a different,
different dialect.
different accents.
Well,
I saw an interesting map that showed people from different regions of England and where they went to. So, like, the Scots-Irish went to Appalachia, it's like, did that influence the early development of accent in the Americas?
Affected the development of music. Right. Like a lot of Appalachian music comes from the Scotland.
Yeah.
The other thing about it in the 20th century was the death of thousands of languages, to 2,000 or 3,000 languages, which have now totally died. I mean, mostly primitive languages, but still, what have we lost because of the death of those languages? Is the question.
It's a reasonable question, and I think one aspect of it, if you just look at it from the perspective of language, is there's different ways to classify things, different ways to think about things. Like a language can structure and order reality in a different way.
There's Southern phrases that you don't hear in other places, and with the homogenization, it's probably linked to people are traveling more.
Yeah.
Right? You have more people coming
they're
in
all
and out.
watching the same TV show.
Oh, watching the same TV show, and now you have young people all communicating with their community isn't their neighbors, friends and neighbors.
Right.
It's online
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
social media, and so it's sort of flattened out. And also, I always wondered, why is it that you go to Boston, you hear the Boston accent. You go to Nashville, but when you watch local news, everybody's decided that they have to have the same neutral accent.
They basically all sound like they're from Ohio.
Well,
Yeah, why can't the Boston weather guy sound like he's from Boston?
Right.
Well, there was a huge effort with the Queen's English. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge effort in
standardize
Britain to standardize
the accent.
the elocution of the English language.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, if you speak the Queen's English, you are educated. You're going somewhere.
Well,
and
it's
if you
much more
don't-
pronounced. It's much more pronounced in England because you can listen to somebody and say, "This guy's from Manchester. This guy's from the," and
But
say
also there's
how what class they're in.
There's very class oriented. We're here, it's much more regional. We're there, I think it's much more your education level indicates stuff. But it's also even. Well, I was just saying how far you have to or don't have to go from where we are to start getting different accents. In England, I mean, the whole thing of Mary Poppins was like they could tell what block you were from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole country is from here to Boston. You know what I mean? It's but yet the accents are all over the place. Anyway, but here you're getting less and less of that. You ever watch Duck Dynasty?
Yeah.
So I used to watch that a lot with my son years ago, and hadn't watched it in forever. Watched it recently, and the daughter of the main guy, Sadie, had lost her accent. I'm like, well, she went off to college, and it wasn't cool anymore to have the Louisiana accent, and she no longer has it. And I'm like, see, that's where you start to,
So I like this word. This guy told me, blandification.
Yeah.
The blandification
That's
of
good.
everything, and that's what we're getting. And I see the benefits. I really do. You know, if I'm in Arkansas and I go to Home Depot, I know where I'm going, right? But there's also a charm to local differences.
Right, and there's that interaction that you missed because if you went to the local lumberyard / hardware store, and Jim was there, and you said, Jim, I need this, and then he said, well, what's the problem? And you talked it out, and Jim could give you a better solution than you're even thinking about.
Right.
You're right. You're having
Yeah.
an experience rather than just like treating everything as a product.
Yeah.
And I think that now, how about this? So my whole life, WMZQ was the country station of Washington D.C. Not a very country town, but it did have one. And do you know that they now have iHeartRadio? It's the Bobby Bones Show, a nationally syndicated show.
Yeah.
There is no local flavor
no
on
local flavor at all.
At
And that's a big deal because
and
a lot of these
TV and they're only Clear Channel. There are only a few TV stations that own everything.
Yeah.
And now iHeartRadio is taking over radio and just homogenizing it from coast to coast.
It was nice. I remember listening to WMAL, and it was nice to hear them talking about local things.
Yeah.
You know, stuff about local roads, local businesses, local charities, local events. And like, if you're on a national show, what are they talking about?
No.
Well, and that you're right, and exactly, and now they're talking about sort of the death of the local newspapers are just decimated, gone. You know, so who's really covering the zoning board hearing, which is really boring as hell,
right.
But, you know, but
Boring,
you got to
but
do
important.
it. You should do it. It's kind of important, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. So radio's gone, newspapers are gone.
The point
local.
both of you made earlier, that like with the Levitt homes and with the homes in this neighborhood, that people will impose personalization and customization on something just naturally.
Right.
Maybe that's a positive sign. Maybe we can say, look,
hope.
Okay, there's going to be some level of trying to homogenize and blandify everything, but people are still going to put their personal imprint on what's going on.
Right. Now, do you want to talk about culture more broadly? rather than, like philosophically.
Oh, I could talk about it all the time.
All right, so T.S. Eliot's Notes Towards the Definition of Culture, 1948, is an essay on culture, society, and tradition. I have this sort of quick outline. Eliot argues that culture is a whole way of life, not just art, literature, or intellectual achievement. It includes religion, customs, social habits, work, leisure, and family structures. Culture grows organically over time and cannot be engineered or imposed without damage. But with that, flooding a country, so you have the gradual approach of Scandinavians and the Irish and the Germans and whatever, all bring their own, and eventually not imposed by anyone else, it develops its own culture. Then you start flooding, say, Europe with non-Europeans who are not interested in coming together in some new form of what we call the American melting pot. You don't get
organic growth.
No, and you don't get the inclusivity that you need. So what he's saying, the argument is you have to have a common culture, so like a stable common culture and a flexibility for change. It's a tough balance, but of course it's not orchestrated by anybody.
It's almost as if there's a line like, we can accept this percentage of new stuff, but because
the Southwestern is going to have more Mexican food.
Well, think about the history of England. I mean, England was progressively invaded by all the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, and then you have the Danes, and so you have all these
Romans.
different invasions. The Romans were in there somewhere. So some of them were created huge conflict where you had fights between the Saxons and the Normans for a long time, because those two cultures, it wasn't a gentle mixing. Like in the United States, we brought in the Irish. Well, we didn't bring a billion Irish. We brought in a certain number of Irish, and they assimilated. We brought in, we had Germans, we had Irish, we had Italians, we had different groups coming in, and they blended because it was a certain percentage of the new. And I wonder if you can assign a number, like if you can say 5% is fine, 20% is bad.
Right.
But I think if you look at it, if you look back on it, the percentages were probably commensurate with what's happening now.
You think so?
But this is But I would say this is the difference, and this is the key argument of Eliot, that culture is inseparable from religion. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, you can have those high numbers you have the same religion. When you bring in high numbers of Muslims into Europe, you don't get the same kind of contribution and a blending of a new culture. So this is not supposed to be a political show, but I called BS on multiculturalism 30 years ago, and now they're going, you know what? And now that they're swamped, they're going, maybe that multiculturalism didn't work out exactly like they promised it would. Well, shit.
I would agree with Eliot to a certain extent, but it kind of depends on how you define religion, because, are you going to say that a Protestant nation can only bring in Protestants?
No, not at all. So I would look at it this way. One of the most famous atheists is Richard Dawkins, who recently said, well, I consider myself a cultural Christian. Mm-hmm. So it really doesn't. He's not talking about the actual belief in the higher being. Yeah. But what he means is it's a Christian culture that I just consider part of what it is to be English.
Yes. Yeah. What he means is Christmas carols and the holidays and he doesn't mean that he believes anything.
Yes.
So I think nowadays Protestants and Catholics merge pretty well.
Yes.
There was a time when they did not.
Very good point.
Yeah. So there has to be some level of homogeneity in who you're bringing into a country.
Right.
Like having the United States bring Mexicans in works because Mexicans are, generally speaking,
Right.
Catholic and
Western,
Western. So, but like bringing in people from Sierra Leone is a completely different, or Sudan or something like that.
Yes.
It's a completely different question. So that does get back to this whole local culture thing, because we're seeing exactly the same thing going on, where some neighborhood, some local culture is being invaded by something completely different. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you see an analogy between those two things?
Totally. That's it. And what Elliot, far as I can tell, is he's talking about is that religion is the foundation of European culture. I mean, that Christianity and secular forms are still have an underlying,
Yes.
right? The underlying foundation
Yeah.
of the secular West is actually Christian.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, 42% are non-believers. They're not Christian. Well, yes, actually, in a Richard Dawkins kind of way.
In a way, they are. Right.
Well, I mean, well, in a way, I mean, but if you took that to its extreme, it's like then the Christian culture and the Islamic culture can never be together. And there will always be violence and fight, and it's either like we're going to kill you or I'm going to kill you, and that's
well,
the
yeah,
end
but it's
of
kind
it.
of a one-way street on that one. The
I don't
Christians
think that's.
Go ahead.
I don't think that's the there's other solutions to that.
Well, there's also the question whether what we want to do is have a homogenized world culture, or whether we can have a concept of different areas. Like, for example, let's just say, for example, that North and South America and Europe remain Christian, and like Africa and the Near East are Muslim, and everything else is Buddhist. So let's just pretend. That's the way it is. Okay.
Right.
Now, we could probably get along just fine.
Get along just fine if there was a shared culture between those three things.
That's what I'm saying.
My definition of culture would be that there would have to be shared belief sets. There's shared propositions of what humanity is. Because if there isn't, then there's going to be nothing but violence.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, the United States being one kind of culture, and Egypt being some other kind of culture, can get along just fine. As long as you guys have your culture, we have our culture, and that's the way it is. The problem is when you try to enforce one culture on the other one.
Well, they enforce, right.
Yeah.
So, I agree with that.
I don't think we need to have some sort of common world culture. I think it's perfectly fine to have...
to have a common world belief set.
To a certain extent.
You have to have a belief set, absolutely.
You have to have certain beliefs, like, for example...
And that's where we're moving towards, no matter what.
Take our stuff when we can't take yours.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the beginning of it.
Yeah, but what if it's you can't have a female genital mutilation, and then you have another culture going. The culture going. Well, that's our thing. That's our culture. Don't you worry about it.
Well, then they're wrong.
Thank you very much.
But that's not part of that shared global shared
it's not, but
set.
somebody's going to win this fight, and it's going to be a fight. And it's not going to be...
Personally, I think we need to move to a place where we just say, look, this is our culture, and that's your culture, fine, we don't care. You do what you want, we're going to do what we want.
But stay out of my neighborhood.
Stay out of my neighborhood, we'll stay out of yours.
All right, how about, let's wrap this thing up here a little bit. So I do these long distance trips with my brother my whole adult life, and we have a certain number of rules, which is stay off the interstate unless you have to. We every meal is at a mom and pop diner, or a bar tavern. A mom and pop diner for lunch. If we try to camp, but when we can't, it's mom and pop motels, which, by the way, are 100% run by Indians, from Jasper, Texas, to Ontario to North Carolina. if it's not a Motel 6, if it's mom and pop, the lobby's going to smell like curry. I promise you. So anyway, I don't know if that's
It doesn't sound like local.
Doesn't sound like local culture, really. But what I'm saying is, the eat local, drink local kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Speaking of what's like, how many small town downtowns have been rescued by breweries?
Oh yeah.
With local flavor and local beers and local,
Hundreds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the decor is local. The names of the beers are after local rivers or whatever, and that's all beautiful stuff.
In a sense, coffee shops have done the same sort of thing.
Yeah, yes, good for them. Good for them. So there are a few. So there's an effort that a person can make when they're traveling to not go to McDonald's and Motel 6. But it takes a little effort, and maybe like we said, a few things like local shops and local breweries is
yeah. So I guess what we need is some sort of a rule of thumb that distinguishes when is homogenization a good idea and when is it not.
Right.
And I'm not prepared to say what the
I
rules
don't have it. I don't have it, but the balance is
the question.
Right. Well, and the arrow is moving towards homogenization.
Yeah. I mean, I want a red light to mean the same thing anywhere in the country.
Yes. But I want to feel like that it's the same architectural firm hasn't designed everybody's downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
In the whole country.
Yeah, and I'd also like to know what's unique to this section of Colorado or wherever.
Yeah. So what kind of meals do you have around here? What do you guys like to eat?
Why do you guys do it this way? What are Rocky Mountain oysters anyway?
I don't want to know.
You probably don't want to know.
I don't want to know. I'm gonna let that part of the culture stay.
Yeah, you can keep that one. That's for sure. All right, gentlemen. To local culture.
Drink local. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.